In the Scottish Highlands, Jimmy is watching TV with his sisters and cousins. Suddenly, a siren starts to ring outside, and the aunt closes the door while telling the children not to move. The kids get scared because they can hear chaos around the house. Jimmy goes to the door and calls his father, only for the door to start shaking. At that moment, the room is forcefully opened, and zombie-like creatures known as the infected burst in. They attack the girls, quickly devouring them without noticing Jimmy behind the door. He uses the chance to run away and has to watch his mother being eaten in another room. As he runs around the house, he keeps seeing all his relatives slowly transforming into infected, but luckily he manages to leave the building. There are more infected outside, so Jimmy hurries to the church to find his father and ask for his help. However, the priest doesn't think the infected are a bad thing. In fact, he thinks they've been saved because, in his eyes, this is Judgment Day. He gives Jimmy his gold cross and asks him to have faith. At that moment the infected burst through the windows and Jimmy runs away, but his father stays back because he wants to be saved. The infected pile up on him and quickly bite him, causing him to become infected too. All this chaos is caused by the rage virus. Continental Europe drives it away and contains it in the UK, which is cut off from the rest of the world. It becomes a wasteland where survivors must fend for themselves. 28 years after the initial outbreak, a community of survivors lives on Lindisfarne Island, a safe zone separated from the mainland by a tidal causeway. Today a child named Spike will be taught how to kill his first infected. His father Jamie prepares breakfast but interrupts when he hears his sick wife Isla falling in the bedroom. The duo rushes to check on her and she freaks out when she hears Spike will be training today. An argument ensues, but after a few words, she just calms down. She's constantly suffering from memory loss and confusion, so half of the time she doesn't understand what's going on. Back in the kitchen, Spike finds Sam, who gives him a brand new bow. On their way out of town, everyone cheers for Spike and wishes him good luck. At the town gate, Jenny reminds him of the rules. Every person who leaves is allowed to come back, but if someone doesn't return, nobody will go looking for them. Rescues have already cost them too many lives. Then the duo crosses the causeway to reach the mainland. Jamie shares many stories from the old days, and Spike can't believe people could live far away from the sea. They cross a bridge to reach a forest, always keeping an ear out for potential enemies. Eventually, they find a slow, infected creature crawling on the ground with a bird on its back. When it stops to eat some worms, Spike gets his bow ready and shoots an arrow that hits the infected in the neck for a quick death. Another infected approaches them from behind, so Jamie kills it with an arrow too. The noises attract more monsters, and Jamie kills one more, but Spike asks him to let the last one go. Jamie is proud of his son, however Spike feels weird about having to kill. The duo keeps moving through the forest and sees some beautiful animals. Eventually, they find an abandoned house, where an infected person is tied upside down with a bag covering his head and letters carved on his back. Jamie theorizes someone captured him as a human and left him as bait, so now he's an infected too. He wants Spike to kill it, but the infected keeps struggling and the kid is too scared. The infected manages to release himself and Spike is startled into shooting, so an arrow to the head kills the monster. Afterward, they keep wandering and find a half-eaten animal on the ground. Spike looks up and finds its head and spine stuck on a tree. For the first time today, Jamie worries because this could have only been done by an alpha infected. He makes his son move faster and not make any sounds as they keep going. When they reach an open field, they find a horde of infected and their alpha leader, so the duo rushes back to the forest as a chase ensues. The danger doesn't stop Jamie from still training Spike, telling him how to shoot on the move and go for the killing blows, which are the heart and the head. They go back to the abandoned house, shooting every infected that follows them while looking for a safe place to hide. Eventually, they find the entrance to the attic and climb inside, closing it before the infected could see them. Hours pass and the duo keeps looking outside, but the alpha never leaves the area. Jamie explains to his son that alphas are bigger, smarter, and need too many arrows to be killed. They don't have arrows left, so, for now, they'll have to wait. Spike feels guilty because he failed some shots and was too scared to shoot faster, but Jamie assures him he did amazing for his first time. In the middle of the night, they see a person with a light, and Jamie explains that's the quarantine patrol. On the opposite side, they see a fire, and Spike is curious about it, but Jamie quickly changes the subject. When Spike falls asleep, he has a very weird nightmare about his mother drowning and structures shaking. Jamie wakes him up because the house is shaking and they need to get out. The duo quickly rushes out and manages to escape right before the roof collapses. Knowing that the noise will attract the infected, Jamie and Spike start running home as fast as possible. The high tide has covered the causeway, but it's not very deep, so they can still cross it. Suddenly a bunch of birds fly above them and the alpha appears on the causeway to chase after them. Spike slips on the water a few times, but Jamie acts quickly to help him, and together they run fast enough to get back on land. Jamie then yells and blows a whistle to alert the guards at the gate. The group turns on the lights to locate the Alpha and shoot him with arrows to make him fall. The creature recovers quickly, so the next arrow is set on fire before it's shot. This brings the Alpha down, and Jamie can drag his son to the gate. Jenny makes them wait for a few seconds until she's sure they're not infected before finally opening the gate to let them in. Later at a party, everyone celebrates Spike's return and first kill. Jamie tells the full story, but Spike is uncomfortable with the celebration of so much killing. The crowd lifts Spike on a chair, and he's allowed to drink. Eventually, Spike is too overwhelmed and rushes outside to throw up. At that moment he sees Jamie sneaking around with another woman and is devastated to watch his father have an affair. Spike goes home, where Sam is watching over a sleeping Isla. After sharing details about his adventure, Spike asks Sam about the fire he saw. Sam thinks that was Dr. Kelson and says that Jamie refused to talk about him for a reason, but he doesn't explain further. The next morning, Isla wakes up with a terrible headache and asks for medicine, but Spike doesn't know where to find any. Then Jamie comes back, and Spike can't stand looking at him, so he leaves the room. After a few minutes, Spike gathers the strength to ask Jamie why he hasn't told Kelson to check on Isla. Jamie explains that Kelson went insane a long time ago and shares the story of what happened the last time they tried to visit him 15 years ago. A group of foragers that included Jamie found thousands of bodies on the ground, neatly arranged in lines around the big fire. Kelson appeared to take the bodies to the fire and even waved at the group, who ran away in horror. Spike insists that Isla needs help and calls out his dad for his affair, which ends with Jamie slapping him. He immediately regrets it, but Spike runs upstairs to his mother's side. When Jamie tries to follow him, Spike takes out a knife and tells him to stay away from them. Jamie easily disarms him, but he doesn't want to make things worse, so he gives the knife back to Spike and leaves. Sometime later, Spike lights a barn on fire, then he runs to warn the guards, saying everyone in town needs help putting out the flames. He promises to keep watch while the adults are gone, but as soon as he's alone, Spike retrieves Isla, and they leave through the gate to take the causeway to the mainland. Isla freaks out when she realizes where they are and keeps calling for Jamie and her father. Spike calms her down and convinces her that a doctor will help her. After walking all day, they find a building to spend the night in. Isla is bored of keeping watching and wakes up Spike to share stories from before the outbreak, saying that Spike looks a lot like her father. As the conversation continues, Isla starts calling Spike dad. He tells her to sleep while he keeps watch. Unfortunately, Spike is tired and ends up falling asleep as well, so an infected manages to enter the building. It tries to eat Spike's shoelaces and spits them when it realizes they aren't worms. Then it gets close to Spike's face, but when it's about to bite, someone pulls it back. At that moment, Spike wakes up and thinks he dreamed the whole thing, but the dead body of the infected is nearby. Isla says she doesn't know what happened, but a flashback reveals she smashed the infected's head against a statue. Meanwhile, a group of soldiers is being chased by a horde of infected. They try to shoot as many creatures as possible, but many of the soldiers are wounded, and they don't have many bullets left. Soon, the infected catch up to them and start biting them, causing them to transform too. The other soldiers are forced to shoot their teammates and only 3 manage to escape. They reach a tunnel and close the gate before opening fire to kill the infected that get too close. Afterward, they explore the tunnel, only to be jumped on by an Alpha. He captures a soldier and tears his head off with a spine, which he uses to knock down another man. The third soldier shoots at more infected at the door and runs from the tunnel. Back to Isla and Spike, they continue to travel while dealing with Isla's delusions. When they find an old statue, she talks to Spike for a while thinking he's her father. Her nose starts bleeding, and the smell attracts an infected, but Spike quickly kills it with an arrow. Some of its blood drops on Isla's forehead, so Spike rushes to clean it before she can touch it. Soon more infected arrive and the duo runs as fast as possible with Spike shooting arrows whenever an enemy gets too close. Eventually, they make it to a gas station and struggle with the door until they manage to get inside. The room is filled with fumes that make it hard to breathe. The infected follow them inside, and the duo has to keep running. Spike grabs some objects and throws them at the creatures to slow them down. There are too many monsters and they surround them at a dead end. But at that moment a ceiling hatch opens and Eric tells the duo to hide. Then he opens fire at the infected, and the contact with the fumes causes a big explosion. The flames burn all the creatures, who desperately try to escape but fall dead before they can leave. Isla and Spike have hidden well and don't get hurt. As soon as there's an opening, they leave the building. While Isla throws up and deals with a headache, Eric approaches them to ask for guidance and freaks out when Spike has no answer to give him. In the end, Eric decides to go with them and even volunteers to carry Isla while they travel. After a few hours, they stop to take a break and eat some apples. Eric tries his phone, but he has no signal and little battery life left. Spike never saw a phone before, so Eric teaches him how it works and shows him a picture of his girlfriend. Since Spike never saw plastic surgery either, he thinks the woman looks weird. At that moment, the battery runs out, and Eric throws the phone away. Then the group gets going, and Isla leaves the guys behind when she hears a noise. She follows it to an abandoned train full of rats, and inside she's shocked to find a pregnant infected woman. At first, the infected is aggressive, but Isla shows that she means no harm and helps her give birth. When the boys arrive, Isla makes Spike cut the cord and cleans the baby with water. When the infected roars and moves forward, Eric immediately shoots her dead. Eric wants to kill the baby, too. However, Spike and Isla have taken a closer look and concluded the child is human. When Eric is about to shoot anyway, an infected hand reaches through the ceiling and pulls him out. Then the infected jumps inside, revealing that he's an alpha and that he is Eric's head. When he notices the dead infected, he gets furious and starts chasing after the humans. As they run, Spike keeps shooting arrows, which don't cause much damage but at least slow the alpha down. Soon, Spike, Isla, and the baby manage to get off the train, and the alpha does the same to continue the chase. However, Dr. Kelson arrives and knocks him out with a sedative dart. Afterward, Kelson introduces himself, explaining he keeps his body covered in iodine because it protects him from the virus. He takes Eric's head as he calls the alpha Samson, and says he's lived in the area for years, but usually Kelson keeps his distance. Spike asks the doctor to help his mom, and Kelson agrees to take them to his bone temple, which is a shrine-like place that he's created to remember the dead. Thousands of bones have been tied into pillars and skulls have been piled to make a tower. Kelson has used both humans and infected because he thinks they're very similar. Eric's head is thrown in the fire, and once all the flesh has been burned off, Kelson washes the skull and asks Spike to add it to the tower. Afterward, Kelson hears the story of the baby and concludes the placenta protected her from the infection. He runs a variety of tests on Isla and determines that she has terminal cancer. While Isla cries, Spike freaks out because he doesn't understand that he can't just steal some medicine to cure her. Isla comforts her son and admits she had been suspicious of cancer for a while, but she hadn't been sure. Keeping Spike's eyes away, Isla makes a gesture for Kelson to show her consent for mercy. Kelson teaches him about the concepts of memento mori and memento amoris, which means everyone must remember to die in love at the right time. Isla puts the baby in Spike's arms before following Kelson to the forest where he puts her out of her misery. Spike thinks about all the happy memories with his mother until Kelson comes back with Isla's clean skull. After handing the baby to the doctor, Spike climbs up the tower and puts Isla's skull at the very top as the sun rises. In the morning, Samson appears running on the field, so Kelson pushes the kids into a secret pit he's built for protection. Samson finds them and roars at them as he tries to remove the lid, but he can't and gives up. The group thinks they're safe. However, Samson comes back by breaking through the wood and grabs Kelson, shaking him around before starting to choke him. Spike gets one of the doctor's sedative needles and injects Samson's arm, which instantly puts him to sleep and saves Kelson. Afterward, Spike makes his way back to town with the baby in a basket. He names her Isla and leaves her with a note outside the gate for Jenny to find. The note is taken by Jamie, who reads it to learn that Spike is gone and doesn't want to be found. The letter also clarifies that Kelson isn't crazy and the baby is clean. A desperate Jamie runs out of town to find his son. However, the tide is too high and he can't go far. 28 days later, Spike is wandering around the mainland and surviving on the animals he hunts. When an infected tries to approach him, he easily kills it with one shot. More creatures are coming, so Spike has to run away. The road is blocked by a big rock wall, but luckily only one infected finds him there and Spike kills it too. Suddenly, someone makes a noise of surprise, and Spike turns around to discover an older Jimmy, who is still wearing his father's cross. Jimmy is impressed by Spike's skill and reveals that he has his team. There are more infected coming, so the group jumps off the wall and fights together to bring down all the creatures in a matter of minutes. They laugh while doing it because they enjoy brutally killing like this. Jimmy celebrates the victory with a cheer and tells Spike that they should be friends. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.